I've been running this diner for 3 years. Monthly rent was a steady 3,000, and I never missed a single payment. But today, the landlord barged in with an agent. Next month, rent jumps to 8,500. Take it or leave. I didn't hesitate for a second. Fine. They traded a quick look and left looking incredibly smug. The moment they vanished, I immediately called a moving company. Overnight, I relocated directly across the street. The monthly rent there, a measly 900 bucks. That afternoon, the landlord Fan de Biao arrived with an agent and sauntered into my shop. Xiaoye business looks pretty booming, eh? I looked up at the sound of his voice. Uncle Fan, what brings you here today? He didn't answer. Just paced around the shop in a slow circle. Xiaoye, we need to talk. Go ahead. Mr. Ye, the thing is, we've reevaluated the value of this storefront. Mr. Fan's intention is that starting next month, the rent will need a little adjustment. My heart sank instantly. To how much? Fan Debiao's tone was dead flat. 8,500. The air in the room went cold. Mr. Yi, this is already the friends and family discount. Just look at the foot traffic on this street. 8,500 is honestly a bargain. If you don't agree to the terms, we'll have no choice but to list the place for someone else. And by then, the price will be even steeper. I gripped the rag in my hand, squeezing it until my knuckles turned white. A jump from 3,500 to 8,500? That's more than double the original price. I grind day and night in this little diner, and my net profit is only about 10,000 a month. With this rent hike, I'd basically be working for Fan de Biao for free. Fan de Biao watched me gauging my lack of reaction. The smirk on his face deepened slightly, radiating the arrogance of a man who thinks he's won. He's convinced I can't survive without this spot. He thinks he's got me backed into a corner. So I took a long deep breath and tossed the rag into the bucket. Fan de Biao was ecstatic, beaming with greed. Aha! Xiaoye, I knew you were a man of action. I always said you were a sharp kid. Perfect. We'll sign the new contract tomorrow. Mr. Ye truly has remarkable vision, the agent added. Your business is destined for even greater heights. All right, we won't get in the way of your fortune making. Keep up the hustle. I've got high hopes for you. With that, they strutted out looking utterly satisfied. I stood frozen, listening to the rhythm of their receding steps and the faint muffled laughter echoing from the stairs. Once the silence was absolute, I whipped out my phone and dialed a number. Hey, is this Xiaogu? It's Ye Chen. Brother Ye, what's up? I need to ask you something. Is that storefront across from mine still vacant? Yeah, it's still listed. Has been for 6 months. The landlord is practically losing his mind with worry. Why, brother, are you interested? What's the monthly damage? It was originally listed at 1,500, but the owner said he'll drop it to 900 just to fill it. Apparently he's moving abroad, so he's desperate to hand over the keys. 900, seriously? Yup, just 900. And he mentioned that, for a serious tenant, he's willing to lock in a long-term lease. Tell him I'm taking it. A 5-year contract. 5-year contract. You mean right now? 5 years. Lock it in immediately. Brother Yi, what about your current spot? Forget that place. Bring the contract and the owner. Meet me at the storefront. I'm heading over now. After hanging up, I instantly punched in another number. Hello? Is this Shunfa Moving Company? I need a crew right now. I'll pay the premium. 13 Huimin Road. It might take the entire night. Money is no object. Just get here. Soon after ending the call, the agent, Xiaogu, and the landlord appeared at the shop across the way. I marched over to meet them. The owner across the street was a man in his 50s named Li. You're the one who wants to lease the place. That's right. I'm taking it. Xiaogu chimed in from the side to vouch for me. Brother Liu, this is the brother Ye I mentioned. He runs the diner directly across the street. Business is absolutely booming, so he's a 100% reliable tenant. Brother Liu yanked open the shop's rolling shutter, revealing a cavernous vacant interior. It was actually more spacious than my current spot, with a much cleaner and more efficient layout. Best of all, the water and electricity were already set. Since this place had been sitting empty for quite a while, Brother Liu rubbed his hands together, looking a bit sheepish. No worries, 900 a month for a 5-year lock-in. Exactly. If you're truly willing to commit to 5 years, then just 1 month's deposit and 3 months rent up front. I'll give you the deposit plus 12 months rent in advance. Both Brother Liu and Xiaogu stood there completely stunned. I don't want the headache of worrying about monthly rent. Did you bring the contract? If everything is in order, I'll transfer the full amount to you the moment we sign. Brother Liu excitedly fished out the contract from his bag, while Xiaogu scrambled to hand me a pen. I gripped the contract, scanning through every single clause at lightning speed. Everything was standard and above board. A 5-year lease term, with a strictly fixed rental rate. Without a shred of hesitation, I scrawled my signature across the final page. Then, right before their very eyes, I transferred the entire sum directly into Brother Liu's account. The money is yours. Boss, this shop belongs to you now. If any utility issues pop up, just give me a shout. I took the keys and gave a sharp nod. Got it. I turned on my heel to leave immediately. Xiaogu chased after me. Hey, Brother Ye, what's the massive rush? I've got a restaurant to move. Back across the street, a massive moving truck was already idling at the curb. A few workers were standing around having a smoke. The foreman saw me and crushed his cigarette. "You must be Bossier, right?" "That's me. Thanks for coming out on such short notice." "Don't mention it, we're here to get the job done." He cast a quick glance toward the interior of the shop. "Is all the cargo waiting inside?" I led them through the front doors. "Everything goes. Clear it all out. Leave absolutely nothing behind." "Don't worry, as long as the cash is right, we're on it." "All right, boys, let's get to work." The crew instantly sprang into action, one team dismantling, one team packing everything up, and the final team hauling the heavy loads. My assistant Xiaolin arrived shortly after I summoned him with a quick call. He nearly jumped out of his skin the moment he walked in. "Boss, what the hell is going on here? Are we being evicted?" I thrust a box of spices into his arms. "Not quite, we're just upgrading to a much better location." "Moving to where?" "Wait, isn't that the place that's been vacant for 6 months? I heard that spot was haunted." "Don't believe that superstitious nonsense. The owner was desperate to lease it, so I got a steal." Xiaolin didn't press for more. He immediately started pitching in, helping me pack the last of the supplies. By 3 a.m., the old shop was officially gutted and empty. I handed the movers double their usual rate, and they left with massive satisfied grins on their faces. As the first light of dawn began to break, the new shop was already organized and ready for business. Xiaolin was beyond exhausted, so I told him to head home and get some sleep, instructing him to come back in the afternoon. By 6 a.m., the sun was fully up. I washed the rice, fired up the stove, and started simmering the very first pot of bone broth. At 7:30 a.m., I prepared a steaming bowl of noodles and sat by the window eating slowly and savoring the moment. From this vantage point, I had a perfect view of that all-too-familiar shop across the street. Its rolling shutter was tightly sealed, looking like a desolate, abandoned face. Once I finished my meal, I polished the Yee's Diner sign until it sparkled, and mounted it proudly over the entrance of the new shop. Then I hand-wrote a notice on bright red paper and slapped it on the door, "Grand reopening. 20% off everything." At 8 a.m., sharp Fan de Biao made his appearance. He froze for a second, staring at the closed shutter lock. He gave it a forceful yank and realized it wasn't even locked. With a thunderous rattle, he shoved the door up, only to stand there in a state of absolute paralyzed shock, because inside there was nothing left. In total disbelief, he lunged into the empty shop, pacing a frantic circle before storming back out. He fumbled with his phone, clearly intending to call me. But at that exact moment, his gaze lifted and locked onto me across the street. There I stood, framed in the doorway of my brand new shop, cradling a cup of steaming hot tea in my hands, watching his breakdown with a calm, steady gaze. Slowly, painfully, his eyes drifted upward toward the familiar sign hanging above my head. Then his gaze dropped to that glaringly bright red notice. His entire face froze into a mask of pure shock. Just then, my very first customer of the day arrived. It was Auntie Lee from the nearby residential complex. Without fail, every single morning, she stops by for a bowl of my signature wontons. Auntie Lee gaped at my new storefront in surprise. "Oh, Xiaoye, you actually moved your shop." "That's right, Auntie Lee. The new spot is much more spacious. Everything is 20% off today." "The usual." "You bet, why wouldn't I? Wherever you move, I'm following your cooking." "Wait, is that your black-hearted landlord over there? What the hell is wrong with him? Maybe he's just reflecting on his life choices." Fan de Biao obviously caught every word we said. He whipped his head around, glaring at me with eyes that looked ready to kill. I completely ignored his tantrum. I turned back into the shop. "Auntie Lee, your wontons will be out in a heartbeat." For the next 30 minutes, Fan de Biao remained standing across the street like a lifeless statue. Meanwhile, 3 tables in my shop were already full. "Xiaoye, this is great. Your new place is way brighter than the old one. I was wondering why the place across the street was shut. Gave me a real scare. I thought you'd skip town, haha. Skip town never. Xiaoye's talent shines no matter where he sets up shop." My regular customers chimed in one by one, creating a lively and bustling atmosphere. These were all local neighbors and friends who had been eating my food for 3 years. They trusted my skills and my character implicitly. Consequently, the looks they shot toward Fan de Biao were filled with undisguised contempt and mocking amusement. Finally, Fan de Biao made his move. With a face as dark as a thundercloud, he marched across the street. He marched straight toward my newly opened shop, and the few customers already digging in noticed him immediately. They all slammed their chopsticks down in unison. The atmosphere in the diner instantly turned ice cold and tense. Colin looked a bit rattled, but I told him not to sweat it. Then I stepped out and blocked Fan de Biao's path. "Uncle Fan, can I help you with something?" His face was bloated and flushed the color of raw pig liver. "Ye Chen, what the hell is the meaning of this? How dare you play me like a fool? Play you how? You were the one who laid down the law. You said if I didn't like the hike, I should beat it. Well, I've moved. Do you have a problem with that? You have absolutely zero integrity. We already had a verbal agreement in place. This is a total scam. First off, we never signed a single shred of a new contract. Secondly, you're the one who brought an agent to my door to extort me. Now you want to talk about morals? Don't you find that hilarious? The customers started chiming in to back me up. Exactly. Old fan, what you did was straight up dirty. Xiao Ye was paying you a solid 3,500 a month, and you had the nerve to demand 8,500 out of nowhere. Why don't you just go rob a bank instead? For real, your greed is absolutely nauseating. You just got jealous seeing this kid's business blow up. Thank God Xiao Ye had the guts to switch spots. Otherwise, a leech like you would have sucked him dry. Fan Debiao's face shifted between a fiery red and a sickly green. He looked like he was about to explode with rage, but realized he was currently the target of everyone's scorn. Instead, he resorted to hollow, vicious threats. Ye Chen, you better watch your back. You think you can just walk away from this? I'll make sure you can't survive on this street. Sure thing, I'll be waiting. But let me remind you of one thing, Uncle Fan. We live in a society ruled by law. If you try anything illegal or out of line, I won't hesitate to call the cops. My bad, everyone, I said, turning to the room. Sorry for the interruption to your meal. Today's food is on the house. My treat! The diner instantly erupted into a frenzy. Hell yeah! Cheers and applause filled the air. Fan Debiao stood at the entrance glaring at me for several agonizing seconds, before finally retreating under a barrage of disgusted stares. He slunk back to his car looking completely pathetic, and floored the accelerator to flee in a total panic. I watched his vehicle vanish around the street corner, and the smile slowly drained from my face. I knew Fan Debiao wouldn't just let this slide. If he couldn't win playing fair, he'd definitely play dirty. I stepped back into the kitchen, staring at the bone broth bubbling away in the pot, my gaze gradually turning ice cold. Whatever he throws at me, I'll block. Whatever he dishes out, I'll take. If you want to play games, I'll play with you until the bitter end. Business at the new shop was absolutely explosive. Because of all the recent drama, my little diner had actually unexpectedly become a viral hotspot for influencers. For several days straight, the place was packed to the rafters, leaving me so busy my feet barely touched the ground. I had to hire a part-time auntie to help serve, just to keep our heads above water. As for Fan Debiao, since his humiliating retreat that day, he hadn't shown his face even once. Word on the street was he listed the shop with agents again, demanding an insane 10,000 in rent. The agent told him to get a reality check, but he stubbornly believed that since my business was so good, the location itself must be worth that astronomical price. He was convinced another sucker like me would appear, waiting with bated breath to take over. But as the days dragged on, not a single prospective tenant showed up at that door. There wasn't even a shadow of anyone interested. Just when I thought he would continue being this delusional indefinitely, trouble finally came knocking. Colin was the first to notice something was off. Boss, have you heard the rumors? People are saying our food is unhygienic. Who's spreading that trash? Several regulars have already come to ask me. It's Auntie Jo, the one who runs the nearby grocery store. She's been telling everyone today that we use the cheapest, nastiest frozen meat, and that even our oil is recycled gutter sludge. Auntie Jo? I remembered her. She's tight with Fan Debiao's wife. They're mahjong buddies. What else? There are also rumors that you didn't leave by choice, but were kicked out by Fan Debiao because you owed several months of back rent, claiming your character is trash. It's obviously a load of absolute garbage. This is plain bullying, but I saw through it instantly. Fan Debiao didn't have the guts to show his face, so he pushed his wife to do his dirty work. Low-life bottom-tier tactics like this, only people as toxic as them could ever dream them up. That very afternoon, Fan Debiao's wife Jie Yufan personally joined the fray, sporting a head of cheap frizzy curls. She stood before several small shops on the street, screaming fabrications with spit flying everywhere. Oh my, let me tell you, you must never, ever step foot in Ye's diner. His ingredients are all rotten scraps scavenged from the market. Listen, the landlord is a relative of mine, who kindly leased the storefront to him out of pity. But look at what he did. He left the place filthy and in total shambles. Not to mention he skipped out on months of rent. He basically vanished into the night. With a person like that running the kitchen, who would dare eat there? Her voice was shrill and piercing, echoing across half the street. Passers-by who didn't know the truth stopped in their tracks, peering curiously toward my diner. Inside, several tables of customers were mid-meal, and hearing those words, their expressions turned sour. Xiaolin turned pale with pure indignation, grabbing a broom as he prepared to storm out. Boss, I'm going to end her. I grabbed him firmly. Get back here. But boss, trading insults with her is exactly what she wants. She's dying for us to have a public shouting match, to blow this whole thing out of proportion, and drag our reputation through the mud. So what do we do? Let her talk. The louder she barks now, the harder she's going to crash later. I pulled out my phone and hit the record button, aiming directly at Jie Yufan. I filmed her for 5 solid minutes. In the video, Jie Yufan was putting on a vivid performance, fabricating a long list of my supposed crimes. A few neighboring shop owners, who were cozy with her, were even standing by fanning the flames with their own lies. I tucked my phone away and addressed my customers. Everyone, Regarding the nonsense being shouted outside, I believe my regulars know exactly what the truth is. To show my gratitude for everyone's support, and to put the minds of our new guests at ease, our shop is hosting a special event tomorrow. Starting at noon sharp tomorrow, our kitchen will be wide open to the public for 30 minutes. I'm personally inviting everyone to come in and judge for themselves. Inspect the rice, the flour, the oil, the meat, and the vegetables we use every single day. I Chen run this business, based purely on a clean conscience. Xiao Ye, we have full faith in you. I'll definitely be here tomorrow. Exactly, I'm bringing my neighbors to see for themselves. Let those gossip mongers see what real hygiene looks like. The energy in the shop was instantly revitalized by my words. Meanwhile, across the street, Xie Yufeng retreated while spewing curses under her breath. I narrowed my eyes at her receding figure, a cold, sharp smirk playing on my lips. Xie Yufeng Fan Debiao, did you truly believe this was the end of it? The real masterpiece is only just beginning. The next day, my kitchen open house instantly became the hottest news on the entire street. I had dozens of flyers printed in advance, containing no fluff or empty words, only the phrase, "The pure remain pure," and "The corrupt remain corrupt." Yi's Diner invites you to witness the kitchen with your own eyes. Be a witness to quality and integrity. Shaolin and a few loyal regulars helped distribute the flyers to all the nearby complexes and offices. In the neighborhood WeChat groups, I personally posted the event teaser. The featured image was a high-res still from the video I recorded yesterday. Xie Yufen's twisted shouting face was enlarged significantly, though I censored her eyes with a strategic mosaic. The caption simply read, "Rumors end with the wise," and die in the face of the truth. This move ignited a wildfire of curiosity. By 11:30 a.m. the next day, a massive crowd had already swarmed the front of my shop. People were whispering excitedly, desperate to see exactly how I planned to vindicate myself. Fan Debiao and Xie Yufeng appeared as well, lurking on the outskirts of the crowd, with faces as grim as tombstones. At 12 p.m. on the dot, I swung open the kitchen doors. Everyone welcome to the tour. My kitchen underwent a rigorous deep cleaning last night. The surfaces are polished enough to use as mirrors. The floors are bone dry and spotless. Every inch of the stainless steel stoves and counters has been scrubbed until not a speck of dust remains. Our staff's health certificates are proudly displayed on the wall. In the corner, the waste bins are meticulously sorted and arranged with military precision. I led the crowd through introducing every detail. This is the rice we serve in every bowl. Premium Wuchang rice straight from the Northeast. This is the oil we use for every dish. A top-tier brand strictly non-GMO. I've even pinned the shopping receipts to the wall, so feel free to verify them yourselves. Wow, he's not kidding. The date on the receipt is from yesterday. This is the pork that arrived at our doorstep just this morning. Just look at that vibrant color and the natural elasticity. Every single vegetable used in my kitchen is thoroughly rinsed under running water at least 3 times. This kitchen is honestly cleaner than my own home. Xiao Ye is a man of true standards. I'm completely sold now. I'll be eating here every single day from now on. You sure talk a big game, a voice sneered. But who's to say you didn't just set this up as a stunt for today? Auntie Zhang, that's just not right. I've eaten Xiao Ye's food for 3 years straight, and I've never had a single stomach ache. You can't fake a person's character like this. You might all be wondering why I'm hosting this event today. It's because yesterday a very enthusiastic lady on this street decided to tear my reputation to shreds. The video began to play. Xie Yufen's shrill grating voice blared out with crystalline clarity. They use gutter oil and rotten leaves scavenged from the market. He's a deadbeat who skipped out on months of rent. The entire place fell into a deathly silence. Every single pair of eyes in the crowd simultaneously locked onto the pair lurking at the edge of the street. The high-def footage paired with her hideous expression was enough to leave everyone utterly revolted. And there you have it, the source of the lies. I cut the video, my calm gaze sweeping across every face in the crowd, before finally settling on Fan Debiao and Xie Yufeng. I've run my business here for 3 long years, and I can say with certainty that my conscience is clear. As for my landlord, simply because I refused his extortionate demands, he sent his wife to drag my reputation through the mud. Everyone, let me ask you, does this seem fair? The crowd instantly erupted into a frenzy of rage. That's absolutely wicked. Nothing but a pack of disgusting lies. He's the one with the black heart, yet he bites back at the victim. What a piece of garbage. So he resorted to revenge just because he couldn't hike the rent? Old man, you have no shame. A tidal wave of insults and curses surged toward Fan Debiao and his wife. Fan Debiao grabbed his wife and they fled like pathetic beaten dogs. After this massive spectacle, my little diner saw its reputation skyrocket. We became the local gold standard for cleanliness and integrity. That very same afternoon, a young entrepreneur who was planning to rent Fan Debiao's shop for a milk tea business heard the full story of what had transpired. He shook his head and walked away without looking back. Dealing with a landlord like that? Okay, as is a total nightmare. I looked at the rolling shutter across the street, which remained tightly and desolately sealed. My heart felt nothing but a cold, steady calm. Fan Debiao, your losses are only just beginning. The day after the kitchen open house, a massive line formed outside my shop before we even opened. Xiaoling was outside trying to maintain some order, shouting until his voice went hoarse. In the middle of the lunch rush, a middle-aged man squeezed in. It was Master Ma who ran the barbershop next to my old location. He was also one of Fan Debiao's tenants. Boss Ye, Master Ma. Is there something you need? I actually came here to thank you. Thank me for what? For finally venting that pent-up frustration for all of us. That Fan Debiao is truly a bottom feeder. He tried to pull the same rent hike on me, jacking it up from 2,000 to 4,500. How is a small barbershop supposed to cough up that kind of cash? I pleaded and haggled with him for ages, before he finally agreed to give me a 3-month grace period. I've been so stressed I haven't slept in days. 3 months? It all clicked for me instantly. Fan Debiao was trying to use me as the sacrificial lamb, killing the chicken to warn the monkeys. As long as I caved and paid up, the other tenants would have no choice but to be slaughtered too. Exactly, it's not just me. There's also old Lee at the hardware store, and Brother Zhao who runs the mini-mart. He's already threatened all of them. We're all just small-time business owners, and with him pulling this predatory stunt, none of us can even survive anymore. Well, things have changed. Now that you've exposed him like this, he's become a pariah, a rat crossing the street. He hasn't dared to mention a rent hike in 2 days. If he ever brings up those unreasonable demands again, don't let him intimidate you. Stand your ground and unite. Go to the neighborhood committee or the sub-district office together. What he fears most is a public scandal. I get it now. Boss Ye, you're truly our backbone. From now on, your haircuts are 50% off. As I saw Master Ma out, a different sensation washed over me. My initial counterattack was strictly for self-preservation, but now this situation seemed to have taken on a much deeper meaning. I was no longer carrying this burden alone. That afternoon, I took a moment to visit my old shop across the way. The rolling shutter was still tightly sealed, but someone had spray-painted 3 massive words in red. Black-hearted scumbag. The writing was crooked, but you could tell the person was absolutely livid. Next to it was a crudely drawn turtle, the ultimate insult. I could only imagine what kind of priceless expression would be on Fan Debiao's face when he saw this masterpiece. Over the following days, Fan Debiao's storefront became a total laughingstock. Rumor has it he slashed the rent back down to 3,500, but still not a single person came to inquire. For a landlord who relies entirely on rental income, once his property becomes unrentable and his reputation is completely trashed, the very foundation of his life crumbles. I assumed he would finally just lay low and give up, but I clearly underestimated just how low a person's moral baseline can sink. Late that evening, just as I was prepping to close up shop, boss, something's wrong. I was just out taking the trash to the bins, and I saw Fan Debiao on a suspicious call at the alley entrance. I overheard him plotting to report us. Report us for what? Fire code violations, licensing issues, the whole 9 yards. He even bragged about having connections in high places to ensure our shop gets shut down for good. I stepped to the entrance and caught sight of Fan Debiao lurking in a nearby corner, spewing curses with a face full of malice. Early the next morning, trouble arrived exactly as expected. The first wave was the health department. 3 officials in stiff uniforms marched in. We're from the Market Supervision Bureau. We received a formal tip-off, stating your establishment has severe food safety violations. We need to conduct a surprise inspection. The customers froze chopsticks mid-air, watching the scene unfold with intense curiosity. Be my guest. Check whatever you need. How can we assist you? First, produce the health certificates for all employees. Then we'll be inspecting the kitchen and storage. Shaolin pulled out our permits and handed them over. I then led the officials toward the back. They were incredibly thorough, practically trying to find a needle in a haystack. One guy used a high-powered flashlight to scrutinize the stoves and every tiny crevice in the walls. Another yanked open the refrigerator, probing the cooling and freezing units with a thermometer. The third was meticulously combing through my invoices and checking the expiration dates of every ingredient. But because my kitchen had just undergone that massive open house deep clean and was kept in pristine condition daily, it was so spotless they couldn't find a single flaw. Based on our findings, your hygiene standards are fully compliant with regulations. We will issue an official report. Make sure you keep it this way. Thank you. We'll certainly stay on top of it. Barely any time had passed after they left, before another group of people stormed through the door. This time, it was the fire department. Who's the person in charge here? We received a report claiming your fire safety equipment is inadequate and that your emergency exits are obstructed. The customers finally caught on to the game. Hey, isn't it obvious someone's intentionally targeting this place? No kidding, right? One wave leaves and another immediately crashes in. I bet my life that scumbag landlord is behind this. I quickly scrambled to present myself saying I'm the owner. Just tell me what needs inspecting and I'm at your service. The fire marshals didn't cut any corners during their sweep. They scrutinized the production dates on every fire extinguisher and double-checked every single pressure gauge. They inspected the fire exits for any blockages or obstructions. and even went as far as testing the smoke detectors to ensure they were fully operational and sensitive. The outcome was a carbon copy of the health inspection. Fire safety is no laughing matter, they noted. You've actually done a stellar job here. It's truly commendable. Before I could even voice my gratitude, more commotion erupted at the entrance. Is this Ye's Little Bistro? This time it was the business bureau knocking on my door. I took a sharp breath and said, hello. I'm the owner. What seems to be the issue this time? The officials meticulously pored over my business license and checked for any signs of deceptive advertising or scams. I handed over my brand new license with confidence, where the name of the legal representative was clearly and proudly listed as my own. They gestured toward the bright red poster on my door, advertising the grand opening and the 20% discount store-wide deal, inquiring if the promotion had been officially registered. I informed them it was merely a short-term marketing campaign, while within the boundaries of legal commerce. After circling the shop one last time, they realized they had nothing on me and packed up to leave. Just before exiting, the lead officer gave me a very meaningful look. Doing business is tough, kid, he said. But as long as your paperwork is flawless and you stay legal, no one can touch you. Don't lower yourself to the level of certain people. Those wasting public resources with frivolous reports will be dealt with accordingly. Thank you for coming, officer. As the third wave of inspectors finally cleared out, Attaboy Xiaoye, let's see what pathetic tricks that bastard has left now. A straight tree fears no crooked shadow. We've all got your back. My nose began to sting, and I nearly broke down in tears right then and there. I immediately gave the crowd a deep, respectful bow. I'm truly grateful to you all. Thank you. Once this storm of controversy finally settled, my business didn't just stabilize, it didn't drop an inch. It actually exploded in popularity more than ever before. In the span of a single morning, I had successfully hosted 3 consecutive waves of surprise inspections from various law enforcement departments. And since I passed every single one with flying colors, the story became an absolute bombshell in the local news. My little diner wasn't just known for its integrity anymore. It had somehow leveled up into a model merchant status. The regulars even started joking around, saying that eating at my place came with 3 layers of safety, making it even more secure and reliable than their own kitchens. So that very afternoon, I shelled out the cash to have a custom silk banner made, along with several high-impact posters. On the headline of the posters, I used the boldest, largest font imaginable to write, "A warm welcome to the Market Supervision Bureau, the Fire Department, and the Bureau of Industry and Commerce. Thank you for visiting and guiding our establishment. Following rigorous audits by authoritative departments, this establishment has been found fully compliant in food safety fire protocols and legal operations across all categories." At the bottom, I added a cheeky line in smaller print, "The government-certified Peace of Mind Diner. Everyone is welcome to come and have a taste." I took this massive eye-catching poster and slapped it right on the door in the most conspicuous spot. Then, clutching that silk banner embroidered with fair enforcement and dedicated to the people, I marched toward the sub-district office with a loud festive performance of gongs and drums, right in front of a massive audience. I publicly thanked the officials for their special care and attention towards small businesses like mine. The faces of the office leaders shifted from red to pale white. They were perfectly aware of the dirty schemes happening backstage, but with so many neighbors and locals watching them, they had no choice but to accept the banner with a straight face. They even had to force a smile and praise my high civic awareness, calling me a stellar representative of outstanding merchants. This absolute masterstroke of a counterplay sent shockwaves through the entire street. Everyone was left stunned by my 200 IQ move, before bursting into fits of uncontrollable laughter. This was basically dragging Fan de Biao's face across the gravel and stomping on it repeatedly. He spent a fortune using his connections to sabotage me, but ended up handing me a prestigious free certification instead. He literally ignited the fire for my own marketing campaign. It wasn't long after that, before I heard through the grapevine, that Fan de Biao had received a savage warning from the authorities. They told him if he dared to abuse the reporting system again, to harass others and waste public resources, they would prosecute him to the fullest extent of the law. Fan de Biao became the ultimate laughingstock of the district. His name was now synonymous with black-hearted, wicked, and getting exactly what he deserved. Xia Yufan was the first to crack under the pressure. Naturally, she vented her mountain of explosive rage directly at Fan de Biao. Multiple times when I passed by their apartment building, I could hear her shrill, piercing shrieks, echoing alongside the sound of things being smashed. "Fan de Biao, you useless piece of trash. I can't even show my face in public anymore. You've completely humiliated me. It was your brainless, pathetic idea in the first place, running your mouth like some gossiping hag outside. Look at us now. They caught everything on camera. You moron, you Mia moron. If you hadn't been so greedy for a few $1,000, would we even be in this mess?" Fan de Biao had lost all his dignity on the streets, and now he couldn't even stand tall in his own home. He began drowning his sorrows in alcohol drinking like a madman. Every day he'd be stumbling around in a daze, his gaze becoming more sinister and terrifying by the hour. Meanwhile, with my encouragement, Master Ma and the others finally banded together into a united front. 5 different shop owners marched right up to Fan Debiao. Fan Debiao, of course, tried to play tough, bellowing that he would evict every single one of them. But Master Ma, acting as the group's representative, calmly pulled out a digital voice recorder. Fan Debiao was instantly paralyzed with shock. In the end, he had to grit his teeth so hard they nearly broke, signing the very contracts that cemented his absolute defeat and public humiliation. From that day forward, Fan Debiao's drinking spiraled out of control. When he got wasted at night, he would stand on the opposite side of the road, glaring at my little diner with a death stare. His eyes were brimming with pure hatred and resentment. Consequently, that very day I installed a high-tech security system with 4 HD night vision cameras around the shop. A few days later, in the dead of night, Fan Debiao finally made his move. He was clad in a dark, oversized raincoat, clutching a heavy bucket of crimson paint. He marched straight toward my storefront, and without a shred of hesitation, he doused my glass doors and posters in blood-red paint. Following that, as if his twisted thirst for revenge wasn't quenched, he hurled the empty bucket violently against the glass. After completing his pathetic act of vandalism, he dropped the bucket panting like a cornered beast, and stumbled away into the shadows of the night. The next morning at the crack of dawn, Colleen was the first to arrive at the shop. He let out a horrified shriek and dialed my number instantly. "Boss, you need to get down here right now. Something terrible happened." I rushed over immediately, only to find Xiaolin trembling with absolute fury. "It has to be that scumbag Fan Debiao. This is way too much. He's crossed the line. Let's call the cops and end this. Calm down for a second. Go find some professional cleaners right now to scrub this entire place clean. Pay whatever they ask, money isn't the issue. Just ensure everything is spotless before we open." "But boss, are we really just going to let this slide? Not a chance in hell. Go get the cleaners first. Leave the rest of the dirty work to me." With those final words, I stepped into the shop and pulled up the surveillance footage from last night. The splashing paint, the violent assault on the door, and that sinister retreating face, every single detail was captured in crystal clear high definition. Especially that moment after he finished the job, when he looked up and exposed his full face to the lens. "Fan Debiao, I've been waiting for a slip-up like this for far too long. This time, I won't leave you a single inch of ground to stand on. It's time to put an end to this pathetic rivalry once and for all." I carefully extracted the most damning segment of the surveillance video. I captured the exact frame where his face was fully exposed, then drove straight to the town's photo studio. "Boss, I need this shot blown up into a 24-inch print." The owner glanced at the screenshot and froze. "Wait, isn't this that guy Fan Debiao from Huimin Road?" "That's the one. I'll be back for it in half an hour." 30 minutes later, I headed back to my diner with the massive photo in hand. By now, the cleaning crew had successfully scrubbed away most of the crimson paint and were just finishing up the final touches. I didn't stop to chat with them. Instead, I marched straight across the street, stopping right in front of Fan Debiao's vacant shop. Then, armed with heavy-duty industrial glue, I took that gargantuan high-res photo and plastered it dead center onto his rolling shutter. Directly underneath the image, I scrawled in giant bold letters, "Wanted. This individual committed acts of malicious vandalism against my diner at 2 a.m. last night. A 5,000 RMB cash reward for anyone providing motives or evidence of further criminal plans." A few passersby spotted the display and let out audible gasps of pure shock. "My God, isn't that Fan Debiao? Isn't this a straight-up criminal offense? I've seen everything now." His own crime photo posted right on his own front door. He's officially flushed his dignity down the toilet. The news spread like it had grown wings, rippling through the neighborhood at lightning speed. In less than 30 minutes, a massive swarming crowd had gathered. Directly in front of Fan Debiao's storefront, mocking laughter and sharp insults erupted in waves. At that precise moment, Fan Debiao's reputation was dead and buried. Only then did I calmly pull out my phone and dial 110. "Hello, officer. I'd like to report a crime. My shop was maliciously vandalized last night. I have the full surveillance footage, and the suspect's identity has been confirmed." "Great, Yang. I'll be waiting." 10 minutes later, 2 officers arrived on the scene. I handed over a USB drive containing the full video directly into the hands of one of the officers. "Officer, this drive contains all the evidence. The suspect is currently in the building right across the street. Are you absolutely certain he's in there?" "Positive." Unit 302 on the 3rd floor. Under the watchful gaze of hundreds of local neighbors, the 2 officers marched into the apartment building where Fan Debiao resided. Before long, a disheveled and pathetic Fan Debiao was escorted out. The moment Fan Debiao laid eyes on that massively enlarged, hideous reflection of his own face, plastered onto his own storefront, becoming the target of relentless public mockery, his final line of psychological defense completely shattered. His legs suddenly turned into jelly, and he collapsed onto the pavement in a heap. I stood firmly at the entrance of my shop, watching this scene unfold with a gaze as cold as ice. This power struggle, which had dragged on for nearly a month, was finally reaching its conclusion. Once Van de Biel was hauled away, a sense of absolute peace finally returned to the world. The flashing lights of the police cruiser vanished around the corner, and the surrounding crowd slowly began to disperse. Yet the air was still thick with a lingering excitement, and the low hum of endless gossip. Van de Biel had effectively become the neighborhood's main topic for days to come. I calmly gave Xiaolin his instructions. The customers are coming. Prepare for the lunch rush. Boss, are we actually opening today? Why wouldn't we open up? Even if the sky falls, people still need to eat. Our mission is to ensure everyone gets a decent meal. Now go. Xiaolin gave a vigorous, determined nod and immediately sprang into action. Half an hour later, Yi's Diner opened its doors right on schedule, acting as if that chaotic farce had never even happened. But everyone understood one thing clearly. Some things had changed fundamentally and forever. That afternoon, I received a phone call from the local police station, requesting that I come in to provide a formal statement. So I handed the reins of the shop over to Xiaolin and headed over there alone. I detailed everything from the initial rent extortion to the malicious rumors and character assassination, continuing with the malicious false reports, and finally the paint vandalism and property damage last night. I recounted every single detail with clinical precision. Van de Biel intentionally destroyed your private property, with the total damages exceeding 5,000 RMB. This officially hits the threshold for a criminal case. Van de Biel has fully confessed to his crimes, so we are placing him under criminal detention per the law. The case will be transferred to the Procuratorate for public prosecution. As the victim, you may be required to testify in court. I understand. I'll cooperate fully with the process. As I stepped out of the police station, I took a deep, revitalizing breath of the fresh air. It felt as if the suffocating gloom weighing on my chest had finally been swept away by a cleansing wind. Half an hour later, as I approached my shop, a crowd waiting there immediately swarmed toward me. Master Ma was visibly trembling with excitement. As he gripped my hand, "Boss Ye, we've all heard the glorious news. Incredible work. You've done this for all of us. You've purged this entire street of a major menace. Damn right. Xiao Ye, if you ever need anything, just say the word. We've got your back, no questions asked. You guys are overestimating me. I simply did what had to be done. Our priority is to just run our businesses in peace. Nothing is more important than that. Come on in and take a seat. Lunch is on me today." I ushered them into the diner, and the room was instantly filled with cheers and laughter. 3 days into Van de Biel's criminal detention, Xie Yufen finally showed up at my doorstep. Looking haggard and defeated, she croaked out, Boss Ye, before suddenly collapsing to her knees right in front of me. "Boss Ye, I'm begging you, show some mercy and let my husband go. He's not a human being, he's a monster. He's a scumbag who screwed up big time. I'll apologize for him, I'll do anything. I'll even kowtow to you right here. Xie Yufen, get up. Making a scene like this is bad for my business. Boss Ye, he just had a moment of temporary insanity. He was wasted on booze when he did those stupid things. He's rotting in there right now, dying of regret. As long as you tell the police you've forgiven him and sign a settlement agreement, he can finally be released. We'll pay. We'll compensate you for every single cent of the damage. Double no. We'll pay triple." I let out a soft, sharp chuckle. "Money, Xie Yufen. Do you honestly think I went through all this effort just for cash?" The question hit her like a physical blow, leaving her mouth agape and completely speechless. "When your husband brought that agent over to extort me for a rent hike from 3,500 to 8,500, all he could think about was money. When you were out there spreading toxic lies, claiming I used gutter oil and rotten ingredients, you were obsessed with destroying my reputation. When he filed those malicious reports, desperate to see my business go bankrupt and shut down, he never once thought about leaving me a way to survive. And now, after he's vandalized my shop and smashed my doors, you have the nerve to call it a moment of confusion." Xie Yufen's face turned a deathly, ghostly pale. "This isn't about whether I forgive him or not. This is about him violating the law of the land. He deserves to face legal judgment and rehabilitation, not my hollow forgiveness. My mercy is worth absolutely nothing, and it certainly can't save him from himself." Xie Yufen's gaze instantly shifted from desperation to venom. "Are you really going to push us into a corner like this? Yao will say, Ye Chen, you're so incredibly vicious. Karma will surely come for you. Whether karma hits me or not, I don't know. But I do know that his retribution has already arrived. Now get out of my shop immediately, before I call the police on you as well." Xie Yufen scrambled up from the floor and slunk away looking utterly soulless. A few days passed, and a manager from a major real estate firm, who was a frequent regular at my diner, personally reached out to me. "Boss Yi, have you ever thought about expanding to our newest flagship development? We're launching a massive commercial plaza in the East District, scheduled to open next year. We fully trust your skills and your character. Just say the word, and the prime location is yours. The most aggressive rental discount is yours for a second branch. Let's turn Yi's Diner into a powerhouse brand. A brand new, vastly wider world was finally beckoning me forward. 1 month later, Fan Debiao was convicted of intentional destruction of property and sentenced to 8 months in prison. Fan Debiao's storefront and his apartment, shortly after his criminal detention began, were snatched up by an out-of-town investor in a wholesale deal. The price was nearly 30% below the fair market value. Scaffolding has already been erected at the old shop's entrance, and workers are inside, the clanging of tools filling the air. That rolling shutter, once defaced with spray paint and plastered with my wanted posters, has been torn down, replaced by a sleek modern glass curtain wall. The era of Fan Debiao has officially ended. Meanwhile, my gaze is set on a much more distant horizon. The proposal for the East District Commercial Plaza is sitting right inside my desk. Over these past few days, I've begun meticulously refining my signature dishes and recipes, aiming to transform my cooking process into a standard operation. I even enrolled in an online business management course. Xiaolin, seeing me constantly grinding and hustling, asked me out of pure curiosity, "Our business is already booming like crazy. What are you still working so hard for?" "Xiaolin, this shop is merely our starting line. In the near future, we're going to open a second, then a third, and many more branches of Ye's Diner across this city." Xiaolin's eyes instantly ignited with excitement, filled with a raw, ambitious longing for the future. The East District Commercial Plaza represents the future trajectory of this entire city, an emerging business hub heavily backed by the government. According to the master plan, that area will be a massive nexus for shopping, dining, entertainment, and corporate offices all in one. The goal is to attract the city's youngest, highest spending demographic. On the project proposal, the colorful concept art highlighted the prime location reserved specifically for me. First floor street facing, directly overlooking the plaza fountain. The absolute golden zone where the city's foot traffic peaks. Sector. Below was a fine print line detailing the rental scheme. Investment volume. 2 years rent-free with a 50% discount after the third. Manager Chen mentioned that they weren't just eyeing my culinary skills, but more importantly, my reputation. They were also impressed by how I handled that recent crisis with such grit and cleverness. They need an entrepreneur like me, someone with a story and high visibility to act as a model merchant and draw crowds. In a way, my little diner has already evolved into a premier brand. But I'm no fool. I know exactly what's at stake. This is both a golden opportunity and a massive hurdle. Back on Huimin Road, I relied on word of mouth from the neighborhood and the deep bonds built over 3 long years. But stepping into a brand new commercial ecosystem means facing far more fastidious customers and cutthroat competition. Everything starts from square one. The ultimate challenge is, how do I replicate the soul of Ye's Diner? My core edge has always been me myself. The precise heat for every dish, the exact ratio of every spice, it's all locked inside my head and my hands. But if I'm to open branches, I must transform these hands into a system that can be taught, replicated, and strictly executed through standardized protocols. So I broke down every dish from the weight of ingredients to the exact dimensions of the cuts, the specific order of the pan, and the precise cooking duration. Even the final drizzle of sauce down to the last spoonful was completely quantified. I recorded every single detail line by line. Scales were mandatory. Measuring cups became essential, and every simmering pot was timed with a stopwatch. Xiaolin watched absolutely dumbfounded. "Boss, are you running some kind of high-stakes chemistry lab?" "A chemistry lab. From this day forward, you are officially my first apprentice. I'm eventually handing this original shop over to you, so you must master this gold standard. To replicate my exact flavor, to that. You should done it. Letters, someone by that, sir. A spark of ambition instantly ignited in Xiaolin's eyes. He gripped those pages and gave a resolute, heavy nod. Beyond standardization, I needed top-tier talent. I needed a new head chef who could command the kitchen. Relying solely on protocols and procedures wasn't enough. A solid culinary foundation and natural intuition were vital. I began scouring industry job postings, and even reached out to several of my trusted food suppliers to help me scout for potential candidates. On Sunday, I hopped on a bus to the East District. The new commercial plaza was still deep in the construction phase, swarming with towering cranes and skeletal scaffolding. The air was thick with the scent of wet cement and dust. But as I stood across from that massive construction site, staring at the rising silhouette of the building, my heart felt like it was on fire with anticipation. Fan Debiao tried to back me into a dead-end alley, but by some twist of fate, he actually kicked open a door to a much vaster and more magnificent world. My life was skyrocketing toward heights I had never even dreamed of. 2 weeks later, I officially signed the lease intent agreement with the developers of the East District Commercial Plaza. Manager Chen attended the signing ceremony in person, even inviting several local media outlets to cover the event. Boss Ye is the god of street food who rose from Huimin Road. His journey perfectly embodies the hustle and spirit of the common man. Once the news broke, I once again became the hottest topic of conversation among the neighborhood locals. He's officially opening a branch in the East District. Xiao Ye is really moving up in the world, expanding his business all the way to the east side. Well, a diamond shines wherever you put it. Does this mean if we want a taste of your cooking, MGE, we'll have to travel halfway across the city? Exactly right. Facing the playful complaints of my regular patrons, I smiled and reassured each of them individually. Don't worry, aunts and uncles. This original shop isn't going anywhere. It will always be our main headquarters here on Huimin Road. I'll personally train Xiaolin to take over, and I guarantee the taste will remain exactly as you love it. Speaking of Xiaolin, he's been improving at a breakneck pace lately. He's practically sacrificed every second of his downtime just to stay glued to the kitchen. Even for something as basic as tomato scrambled eggs, he'll grind through the process dozens of times, until the vibrant color, the texture, and the sweet savory balance perfectly mirror mine. Watching his intense focus from the sidelines, it's like staring at a mirror of myself when I first started. I've decided that once the new branch is up and running, I'm handing him a 30% stake in this original shop. Around the same time, I finally secured a head chef, a trusted ingredient supplier, introduced me to a young talent named Zhuang Qiang, 26 years old. He was a sous chef at a prestigious 5-star hotel, boasting rock-solid fundamental skills. However, because he's a straight shooter who refuses to play corporate politics, he's been constantly suppressed in the hotel hierarchy, denied any real chance of a promotion. I set up a meeting with him and led him straight into the heart of the kitchen. I whipped up a dish for him to taste, then handed him the ladle to see if he could replicate it on the spot. He observed my signature technique just once, capturing 80% of the soul in a single glance. By his second attempt, the flavor profile was nearly indistinguishable from my own. On the third try, he even managed to subtly optimize the plating, elevating the dish to look more refined and far more mouthwatering. Start next month, I told him. I'll bump your base salary 20% higher than your current pay. Once the new branch launches, you'll receive a 5% technical dividend. I have only one condition. Follow my standards with absolute precision. Zhuang Qiang gave me a deep, respectful bump and choked out, "Thank you, brother, yeah. I swear I won't let you down." Everything was finally falling into place. The core team was assembled and ready for war. The standardized workflows were set in stone, and the renovation blueprints for the new shop were finalized by the top-tier designers hired by the developers. The paperwork was submitted, just as I was grinding for the future, working so hard my feet barely touched the ground. The past on Huimin Road was being completely erased in the most decisive way possible. The new owner across the street reconfigured Fan de Biao's multiple storefronts into a modern boutique hotel. The construction speed was legendary. The scaffolding thinned out day by day. Fresh gray exterior walls and massive floor-to-ceiling glass windows gradually revealed themselves to the world. It actually looked quite prestigious. Occasionally I'd spot Master Ma and the others, the former tenants who like me suffered under Fan de Biao, standing on the curb. They'd point at the nearly finished hotel, discussing something with complex expressions on their faces. I knew they were reflecting on the fickleness of fate. Time truly does fly like an arrow. In the blink of an eye, 8 months had vanished. The boutique hotel across the street had already been open for business for 2 months. The hotel was a massive hit, constantly fully booked. Its emergence didn't just elevate the commercial prestige of the entire street, it funneled a steady stream of diverse travelers from all corners of the country into my shop. My new head chef Zhuang Qiang had fully integrated into our core team. Not only did he execute the standards I set with meticulous precision, but he utilized his elite 5-star hotel background to overhaul our kitchen management protocols. Our operational efficiency skyrocketed instantly, and Xiaolin was no longer that timid girl who would shyly trail behind me, calling me brother, between her brows. She now carried the poise and confidence of a seasoned manager. By this time, the East District Commercial Plaza had finally entered its final finishing stages. Renovations on my new flagship store had officially begun. I even trademarked Yi's Diner and established a formal catering corporation, preparing to scale this business to the next level. One afternoon, with the lunch rush over and the shop quiet, I was brainstorming next season's menu with Zhuang Qiang when I suddenly caught a glimpse in my peripheral vision of a figure both familiar and hauntingly strange. It was Fan de Biao. He was finally out of prison. In that moment, Zhuang Qiang followed my gaze. "Brother Ye, is that person an old neighbor of yours? Let's get back to it." "Yeah, let's try this. Regarding this crispy tofu, I think we can drop the sweetness of the sauce by 2 notches. The grand opening of the new branch coincided perfectly with the East District Plaza's very first day of soft opening. The entire square was a sea of fluttering banners, teeming with a massive roaring crowd. The atmosphere was electric. My flagship, Yi's Diner occupied the most prestigious spot in the plaza. The entrance was flanked by celebratory flower baskets, with a crimson carpet stretching from the door to the center stage. It looked incredibly grand. Dressed in a sharp formal suit, I stood immaculately groomed for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. When it was finally my turn to take the mic, I took a steadying breath and began my speech. Hello everyone, I'm Ye Chen. Many of you might recognize me not for my culinary craft, but because of some notorious headlines. The audience erupted into a wave of good-natured laughter. But standing here today, I hope you'll get to know me and my restaurant anew. Yi's Diner has no secret ingredients. We rely on only two things: integrity and flavor. From that tiny hole in the wall on Huimin Road, with just a single table, to this 300 square meter flagship in the East District, those two core values will never change. Thank you all. At 10:18 a.m. the ribbon was cut. The massive doors of the new shop swung open, and a steady stream of eager customers flooded in. Zhangqiang, clad in a pristine white chef's uniform, stood at the center of the open concept kitchen. Behind him stood a line of 8 chefs in identical uniforms. Each man was a specialist at his post, prepping plating and manning the woks. The entire operation moved like a precision-engineered machine, running with flawless rhythmic efficiency. The rigorous standardized protocols I developed had become the most lethal weapons in their arsenal. Zero room for error. Table A3 signature braised pork and eggplant clay pot. Table 5 crispy tofu and shredded cabbage. Watch the plating before it goes out. Zhangqiang's voice was surgical and commanding. Plate after plate of mouth-watering delicacies were lightning fast at the service window, whisked away by waiters in crisp matching uniforms, directly to the expectant diners. I navigated through the bustling dining hall, meticulously gauging the reactions of every guest. Their feedback was music to my ears. The vibe is elite, and seeing such a pristine open kitchen makes every bite feel incredibly safe. Waves of high praise kept crashing in. On our very first day, the turnover rate for the new branch was astronomical. As we ushered out the final table of the night, the entire staff collapsed into their chairs exhausted. Yet across every single face, there was an undeniable glow of pride and triumph. The accountant handed me the first day's revenue report. That staggering figure was nearly equal to a full month's earnings back at the old shop. A profound sense of gratification washed over me. Once the critical first week of the launch was secured, I handed over the daily operations of the East District branch entirely to Zhangqiang's capable hands. I finally returned to my roots at the Huimin Road shop. CEO, yay, you're back. Drop the formalities, just brother is fine when we're alone. Xiaolin chirped back a bright, got it, brother. Her face was beaming with genuine joy. I've prepped this month's books. Please take a look. Impressive work. This month's revenue actually outperformed the last. Naturally, I had the best teacher, didn't I? As the afternoon crowd eventually thinned out, I pulled a legal document from the back office and slid it over. Review this. Holling took the folder, her eyes filling with confusion. Brother, what's this about? From this moment forward, I'll hold a 70% stake in this original shop, and you will own the remaining 30%. You aren't just the manager of this establishment anymore. You are now officially one of its owners. At year end, you'll receive dividends based on your shares. Brother, this is far too precious. I can't possibly accept this. You've earned it. This shop is our foundation, our very roots. You're the one who helped me protect it. Without you, there would be no Ye's Diner today, let alone a future. This 30% stake is simply your due reward. Xiaolin's tears finally began to stream down her face. She didn't try to decline again. Instead, she gave a heavy, resolute nod and clutched that document tightly against her chest. Upon returning to the new East District flagship, I discovered Master Ma Old Li and several other old neighbors waiting for me inside the dining hall. They had even brought a massive ceremonial plaque. Engraved upon that plaque were 4 bold characters written by a famous calligrapher, unmatched skill and integrity. Staring at that heavy, prestigious plaque, and the honest, kind-hearted neighbors standing before me, a wave of indescribable emotion surged through my heart. Every hardship was worth it. 2 years later, on New Year's Eve, following our established tradition, Yi's Diner officially began its 7-day holiday break. The East District branch had long since been locked up, but the original shop on Huimin Road was exceptionally lively tonight. I gathered every single core member of the staff back to this very spot where our dreams first took flight. To share a reunion dinner and celebrate the new year, the long banquet table was overflowing with gourmet delicacies. Xiaolin had completely transformed into a sharp, highly capable female entrepreneur, yet in this moment she acted just like a little girl, excitedly handing out the red envelopes I'd prepared. Even the stoic Zhangqiang finally relaxed, cracking jokes with the rest of the crew, with a face flushed red from the festive wine. Everyone was having the time of their lives. We sat huddled together, recounting the victories of the past year, while sharing our grandest visions for the year to come. The atmosphere was incredibly vibrant. Over these last 2 years, Yi's Diner had evolved from a mere local name into a rising culinary empire. Beyond the Huimin Road headquarters and the East flagship, our third and fourth locations in the South and West districts were already fully operational. Business was booming across the board. My restaurant management corporation had also moved into a spacious, sun-drenched corporate office, backed by a pro accounting department and a savvy marketing team. I was no longer that lone wolf fighting an uphill battle. I had transformed from a struggling, small-time vendor nearly suffocated by rent hikes into a multimillionaire, a man local media outlets were desperate to interview, the rising star of the culinary business world. Brother Yi, what's the master plan for tomorrow? Is it finally time to conquer the out-of-province market? Running a restaurant is like simmering a perfect broth. The biggest mistake you can make is being impatient. Our primary objective for the coming year is to establish a central kitchen, pushing our quality control to the absolute limit. The deeper and firmer the foundation, the higher the skyscraper can eventually soar. Everyone, let's raise a glass to Brother Ye. Without him, none of us would be where we are today. To Brother Yi, Happy New Year. And may Yi's diner continue to dominate. Every single person stood up and hoisted their glasses high. I looked at each of their sincere, vibrant faces and felt a profound warmth in my chest. By the time the party wound down, it was the middle of the night. I arranged for a driver to safely escort my tipsy colleagues back to their homes, but I chose to stay behind for a moment. I walked over to the window and pushed it open, just as the New Year's bells began to chime. In the distance, spectacular fireworks erupted one after another across the velvet night sky, illuminating the entire city as bright as high noon. My gaze drifted across the street to the modern hotel. It sat there quiet and contemporary amidst the festive lights. Not a single trace of Fan de Biao remained in this place anymore, as if the man himself, along with that chaotic, conflict-ridden past, had never even existed. 3 years ago, I stood on this very spot, heart heavy with dread over a 5,000 buck rent hike, backed into a corner by a ruthless landlord. 3 years later, I stand here again, overseeing 4 flourishing restaurants and a rapidly expanding catering empire. What carried me through it all wasn't hatred, nor was it a thirst for petty revenge. It was an unwavering devotion to flavor and a stubborn obsession with integrity. And that unquenchable fire within my soul, a relentless passion for life that never flickered out. Gazing at the brilliant fireworks beyond the glass, a faint, confident smile slowly crept onto my face. As a profound sense of fulfillment and bliss washed over me,